Hello and welcome, Pokemon fans. There are those who call me Bardbreaker, and it's time for yet another solo Pokemon Challenge run. Last week we did a pretty easy run in response to a viewer request where we beat Pokemon Sapphire with only an Aerodactyl. Let's try something that should be a fair bit more challenging though. Today we take our first trip ever to Gen 4 as we seek to ask and answer the question, can I beat Pokemon Platinum using a team of only a single DRIFLOON? DRIFLOON is a dual ghost flying type with stats totaling 348. That brings him to the same total as Scraggy and Pancham, or if you're a Gen 1 whore like me, one less point than Pidgeotto's 349. Our best stat is our HP, which is nice, and a passable speed and special attack as well. Defense is our lowest area, so we'll have to watch out for how many hits we're taking, but at least our special defense is a bit higher than regular. The moves we can learn are about a 50-50 split between physical and special, so I'm not entirely sure how I feel about our attack stats overall, but take a look and see for yourself. By level up, we start with one of the worst attacking moves in the game, Constrict, which is borderline useless. Minimize is the exact same thing as Double Team, so it's nice to be able to start the run off with some cheese maneuvers right away. We get Astonish, Gust, and even Payback relatively early, but none of those are particularly good, and with a Rock Gym blocking our path right away, not only do we not have a great moveset to deal with them, we'll also be weak to them. We get Astonish, Gust, and even Payback relatively early, but none of those are particularly good, and with a Rock Gym blocking our path right away, not only do we not have a great moveset to deal with them, but we'll be weak to the Rock Gym as well. We're likely going to be banking pretty hard on Minimize. We do learn Ominous Wind and Shadow Ball later though, and those will be awesome additions when we get there. By TM, we have a few more options, most notably Thunderbolt and Thunder, which I'm sure we'll be using. Psychic, Secret Power, and Silver Wind look interesting to me as well, and we even have access to Thief if we really want to hunt down a held item to steal. Dream Eater would be great, but we actually can't put anyone to sleep, so once again, I'm not really sure why we have that in our moveset. So with all that in mind, I'd like to remind everybody that I write the script as I go, and at this point, I haven't started playing the game yet. Everyone go ahead and comment down below, and please the almighty Algorithm, god of the YouTube algorithms, and let me know if you think we can win or not. I certainly feel like we can. Madrybread beat this with Pikachu, and Enter the Unknown beat this with a Mime Jr., both of which have lower stats than us, so I feel like we can do it for sure. They had to be level 100 and 96 respectively though, so we'll probably have to be in that same ballpark, but with Thunder and Shadow Ball, I feel we'll certainly have a decent shot at this. Our HP is going to be massively better than theirs as well, so that should help give us a leg up. With all that said, last reminder is of our rules. Only DRIFLOON in combat. I'll need other Pokemon for HMs, but they'll be left fainted whenever possible so that I can avoid tainting the run. Next, I also won't be using any items in battle. Held items and items outside of battle will be allowed though, and lastly, as always, no cheats, glitches, or exploits aside from replacing our starter with DRIFLOON. Let's begin. So I used the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to replace Chimchar with DRIFLOON. This way our rival ends up with Piplup and should have the best matchup against us. Turtwig ends up being grass ground, and we're part flying, so we'd be immune to his ground attacks, and Chimchar eventually becomes fire fighting, and since we're part ghost, we're immune to his fighting attacks. Piplup, on the other hand, becomes water and steel, both of which affect us neutrally, so I think that gives him the best shot to take us out. So our opening battle with Tim time, and I immediately have a brain fart right out of the gate. I thought that since Constrict is borderline useless, I should set up some evasion with Minimize. Only I forgot that Piplup only knows Pound and Growl, and since we're ghost, his Pound won't hit us. So we wasted valuable time here with Constrict as his growls were chunking our attack power. There's zero chance we can lose this fight, it's just annoying that I goofed right out of the gate like that. Also, fair warning, I have never played Diamond, Pearl, or Platinum at all, so this is an entirely new game to me. All I've seen of it are the playthrough videos like the one I mentioned earlier, and what I've read of it on Bulbapedia. This is going to be interesting to say the least. We arrive at Professor Rowan's lab in Sandgem Town, and he thinks our DRIFLOON has evolved? The game must see that it's different than the Chimchar I thought we took and thinks we evolved it already. That's kind of weird. We nickname our DRIFLOON Giggles because honestly it was the first thing that came to mind, and I'm usually pretty terrible at nicknames. Ours is bold-natured, which increases our defense and lowers our attack. That could honestly be good or bad, but I'm leaning more towards bad. Our defense was our lowest stat, but our attack also wasn't great to begin with either. This will honestly probably bring both of the stats about equal, but it will make our physical attacks a bit weaker, which could be bad. Our ability is Unburden, which raises our speed if we use a held item. Not the greatest because our speed is already fairly decent, but I'll go with it. So quick unscripted future me note here. The way the ability is worded when it says if a held item is used, that doesn't mean if you're holding it. That means if you actually consume it. So like if you have a berry held and you eat it, that counts as using the held item. Just holding a held item is not using it. Worded a little weird, but that's what it means. After being tasked to play Package Delivery Simulator again, god damn it, I really thought we actually wouldn't have to do that this time since it wasn't the first thing we had to do. We stopped to catch a Bidoof outside of town for Cut Later, nicknaming it Snipticus the 8th, long may he cut, and I'm immediately confronted with an obstacle. This mandatory trainer has a Starly, which for some reason in Pokemon logic, if birds aren't dual typed with something like fire, flying like Moltres, they're usually dual typed with normal, which means we can't use Astonish. All I can use is my weak Constrict, and look how well that goes with him growling me down. Sure, we're immune to tackle and quick attack, but this is still annoying as hell to get done. We finally grind him down, but until we end up learning Gust at level 11, battles against anything normal type are going to take a while. If we could just find something that's not normal type, we could use Astonish. God, I never thought I'd be begging for more Caterpies and Metapods. We finally get to level 11 and learn Gust as we arrive at Jubilee City. We take on Tim east of town and it's pretty easy. He still can't hit us since we're part ghost and all he has are normal moves, so we just whittle him down with Gust and Constrict. Along the way through Oreburgh Gate, we stop and pick up a Psyduck for Surf and Waterfall later, nicknaming it Aquades the 8th. Long may he swim. We aren't ready for Rourke and the Rock Gym just yet, so we need to level up a bit. But first we have to find Rourke, playing out his lifelong fantasy of being a burly mineshaft worker, and also need to level up to learn Payback. It won't be particularly useful since we're faster than most things, but it will be better than Constrict. I decide to try the gym at level 17 and hope that with some minimized cheese, maybe we won't have to spend a lot of time here grinding. We do more damage than I expect with Gust, likely because it's special in this gen, and the rock Pokemon generally have weak special defense. And we do get past Geodude, but Rock Throw hurts us bad, and when we get to Cranidos, we don't really have much health. It doesn't know any rock moves, but it does know Pursuit, which we're also weak to. So it's time to grind a few levels. I make a few attempts at level 20, but it's still just not working. We're doing passable damage to Geodude, but it's still landing rock throws, and we're getting hurt pretty bad by the Cranidos in its pursuit. We try again at level 22, and after a couple attempts, we do get this run. Despite Rock's resistance to Gust, it's still our best move against them due to their low special defense. Our first Gust brings Geodude down low as it lands a rock throw. We swap to Payback because it's in potion range, and if Rourke uses a potion, Payback will do double damage. We get another move in with Gust after the potion to finish it. His Cranidos is up next, and a crit Gust brings it to a sliver as it lands Pursuit. We go for the Payback strategy again, knowing Rourke is going to heal it, and we land a second Gust after the potion to finish Cranidos. His Onix is next, and this round is actually the highest health we've ever gone into the battle against him having. The Gust does a fair bit to Onix as it goes for Rock Throw. Another Gust and Rock Throw later, and he's at a sliver. I feel like Rourke's going to heal, so we swap to Pursuit, but he actually doesn't, and Pursuit ends the fight. That was about an hour and a half of grinding that just brings the run to an absolute halt. I'm sure it's not going to be the last grinding we do, but on we go for now. We head back to Jubilife City, and we stop to catch a Starly for Fly later, nicknaming it Flapsity the 8th. Long may he fly. And we get to the Valley Windworks. Galactic Commander Mars is up, and she's actually kind of rough to deal with right away. Her Zubat, which normally the Pokemon community scoffs at, knows Toxic, and we aren't strong enough to one-shot it without a crit. We go for Astonish for about half damage and hope for a flinch. We don't get it this time as the Zubat uses Bite for about 10 damage as we land another Astonish and end it. Perugly is out next, and she's a pretty beefy kitty. Our best bet here is Gust, and we just have to use it over and over. We can't set a minimized cheese as it knows Feint Attack, which is not only super effective on us, but bypasses accuracy and evasion checks to always hit. Eventually, we whittle it down and it eats a berry. We get a couple more Gusts in and we take it out with just a bit of health to spare. This actually took about 4 attempts to get right. I'm used to Gen 1 where most poison Pokemon don't know Toxic because that's Koga's gimmicky signature move. We make it to Eterna City in the Grass Gym, but it's also not much to write home about. Gardenia's Turtwig is first and goes down to a Gust. Cherim is out next and survives a Gust with red health to land a weak Magic Leaf. She then heals Cherim as we attack it with 2 more Gusts and end it. Last out is her Roserade, and a Gust brings it low as she misses Stun Spore and heals up. 2 more Gusts finish it. Commander Jupiter time. Zubat is first and it lands a Bite for some good damage but goes down in 2 hits. Last out is his Skuntank, and this one's a problem. Gust doesn't do much and it lands Night Slash for big damage. We have to try something else. We come back and try setting up our minimized cheese on the Zubat. It can really only hurt us with Bite, which can be a bother, but we do manage to get our 6 in place and take it down in 2 Gusts. Out comes her Skuntank. We land a crit Gust to bring it down below half as it heals with a berry. Her Night Slash fortunately misses. We land another Bite as she goes for Poison Gas, an already poorly accurate move that misses, and we get our Gusts in for the knockout. This took a couple tries, but we didn't have to grind. Hooray for progress! We arrive in Hearthome City and it's time for the Ghost Gym. Duskull is out first, but a single Ominous Wind takes it down. Mismagius is second and it survives an Ominous Wind with red health to land a big Shadow Ball. We survive it though and hit back with another to finish it. Last out is Haunter, but a single Ominous Wind takes it out and that was it. Another gym down and in the bag. Afterwards, south of town, we have another fight with Tim. It's a bit rough, mostly because I'm not quite paying attention and I misclick a few times, but we get past it with green health. We make it to Veilstone City and it's time for the fighting gym with Maylene. Her damn tire puzzles stumped me for a bit before I read a walkthrough and realized you just can walk around this corner here. That's a tricky little corner and it doesn't exactly look traversable and it got me pretty good for a while. After that, it's an easy puzzle to Maylene and she's super easy. We one-shot her Meditite with Gust and out next is her Machoke. We bring it to red health with a gust, and it misses Rock Tomb. Another gust takes it out. Lucario's part steel, so it's not quite as easy, but we bring it down in 3 or so hits, and we get our badge. So we bumble our way around Sinnoh for a while, and eventually we find our way into Pastoria City, but before we can take on the gym, it's time to fight Tim again. His Starly is a Staravia now, and it gets off a wing attack, but goes down in 2 gusts. Prinlip comes out and gets off a Bubble Beam, but goes down to 2 Shadow Balls. Ponyta's next and survives Shadow Ball on a Sliver to go for Growl. We take it out, and my status is Roserade, which survives a gust, misses a Leech Seed, and goes down to another gust. I decide to go back to the Veilstone department store and buy the TM for Thunder and replace Payback. I can always relearn Payback later if I really want it, but our attack is much lower than special attack, and we need super effective moves for this water gym. We still lose our first attempt thanks to Thunder missing twice in a row in the Gyarados. I'm sure that's not an ominous sign for things to come. But on our second attempt, we hit the Gyarados for a one-shot. We hit the Floatzel for a one-shot as well. Quagsire's part ground, so unfortunately Thunder will not work on it as we go for Shadow Ball and get the crit for a one-shot, and we've finally beaten Crasher Wake for our next badge. Now it's time for a battle with Galactic Commander Cyrus in Celestic Town. This one actually takes 3 attempts because Thunder keeps missing. But once we can actually land our hits, it's not difficult at all. I'll probably replace it with Thunderbolt now that I get Surf after this fight. It's a bit weaker, but it's 100% accurate. Afterwards, we make it to Canalave City, and it's time for another battle with Tim. Good grief, there's a lot of Tim fights in this one. Staraptor is out first, and it takes 4 Thunders before we finally land a hit and take it out. We didn't need the crit there, but I guess I'll take it. Heracross is bug fighting, so double weak to Gust, and it goes down easily. Empoleon is next, and we miss a Thunder, allowing him a Bubble Beam before we land our next Thunder and end it. Roserade is next, and it survives a gust to land Leech Seed, but goes down with another gust. Last status is Rapidash, which survives a Shadow Ball and sets up Fire Spin, but another Shadow Ball ends it. We get to the Steel-type gym and actually don't have any issues with the trainers, but Byron is an immediate loss. We don't even get his first Magneton to red health. It's time to grind. I grind up to level 60 in the Iron Island and try again. This time we do get past the Magneton, but we've taken big damage from Thunderbolt and we lose handily to the Bastiodon. I think more grinding is in order. So before grinding, I spent about 30 minutes researching and thinking to see if I can come up with a strategy other than just power leveling. Ultimately, my boyfriend and I come up with an idea to try and use Recycle and a Citrus Berry to stall the Bastiodon, since the only thing he can hit me with is Stone Edge, and if I don't attack him, he can't hit me with Metal Burst. So let's give this a try. Magneton is out first, and amazingly we get a crit Shadow Ball for the one-shot. Well, that was an awesome way to start the fight. Bastiodon is next, and we decide to try for Minimize Cheese here. He goes for Stone Edge, which is only 80% accurate to begin with, and he misses. I decide to keep trying for 5 more Minimize Cheeses for maximum cheesiness. He uses a combination of Metal Burst and Iron Defense, but because we aren't hitting him, we're not going to take damage, and we also don't have a physical move, so his defense buffs aren't going to matter. We get our 5 Minimizes in, and it's time to go on the attack. We get ungodly lucky here, as we get 3 consecutive special defense drops from 3 consecutive Shadow Balls, which is an 0.8% chance of occurring. Byron uses a full restore, but by that point it's pointless, as our Shadow Balls are more than a match for him after the 3 defense drops, and we take him down. Steelix is out next, and we land a Shadow Ball as it misses Ice Fang. Another Shadow Ball lands as it sets up Sandstorm. We bring it down low with another Shadow Ball, and I'm sure he's going to heal it here, but nope. We get off another Shadow Ball to end it. And that was insanely lucky, but also kind of annoying. I spent 30 minutes trying to think of a good strategy and ultimately just boiled down to Lottery Simulator, as J-Rose11 would say. Nevertheless, we beat Byron and move on. I'll take what I can get. We hear a big boom in the world, and we see on TV it's coming from Lake Valor. Instead of the police or the bomb squad, it's a job for a 10-year-old to investigate. I guess they're okay with 10-year-olds potentially ending up like Jeff Daniels in Speed. We find Commander Saturn here, and it's time for a match. His Golbat goes down to a Thunderbolt. Bronzor hangs on from a Shadow Ball, but just uses Iron Defense before fainting to another one. Last out is his Toxicroak, which hangs on from a Gust to land Feint Attack for decent damage. We land another Gust to end it though. Commander Mars at Lake Verity meets a similar fate just after. Golbat goes down to a Thunderbolt, Bronzor takes 2 Shadow Balls, and Perugly goes down thanks to a crit Thunderbolt. Our next stop is the Snow Point Gym and a battle with Candace. After wrecking all the failed attempts in the lobby at Frosty's the Snowman, it's time to battle Candace. Sneasel is out first and goes down to a crit Thunderbolt. Frostlass is second and goes down to a super effective Shadow Ball. Snowbama is out and sets up Hail as it survives Gust to land Water Pulse. Why can it learn that? Anyway, another Gust takes it down. Last out is Piloswine, and a Shadow Ball brings it low as it lands a big Stone Edge. She goes for a full restore though, allowing us 2 more Shadow Balls for the knockout. Galactic HQ's not really anything of note, and it's time for a Cyrus battle. His Sneasel survives a Thunderbolt and lands a solid Ice Punch before going down. Honchkrow is next, and 1 Thunderbolt takes it out. Crobat is last, and it hits an Air Cutter and survives Thunderbolt on a Sliver. Cyrus goes for a full restore as we hit a Gust. He lands a Bite because he outspeeds us and gets a flinch and gets off another Bite. Finally, we can attack it again and hit a knockout Thunderbolt. Shortly after, it's time for another Commander Saturn fight. Gosh, this game feels bloated. Golbat goes down to a wing attack. Bronzor's next, and it trades Shadow Balls with Giggles before eventually going down to our Shadow Balls. Last out is Toxicroak and survives a Gust, lands a Feint Attack before going down to another Gust. Alright, it's time for the duel battle with the Bimbos Jupiter and Mars, and this one's pretty annoying. Compounding that is that our rival Tim uses Munchlax as his opener, which doesn't really do much. This is actually a slog, and it does take a while. The opening Bronzors set up barrier and light screens respectively, which lower our damage, and I already have low power points coming into this fight. Fortunately, they start focusing on the Munchlax, which allows me to attack them piece by piece. I'm not really a fan of how much Team Galactic stuff they've crammed into this game, and we're not even done with it yet. Speaking of which, it's time for the Distortion world, and mother of God, this is just as tedious and annoying as I imagined it would be when I finally played it for myself. Even using a walkthrough, it takes quite a while to navigate it, and we finally get to Cyrus. But once we get there, it's just not happening. He takes attempt after attempt after attempt to bring down. Ghost was not a good type to pick for this run. Well, maybe it was if our goal was to make it a challenge. I finally settle on a strategy of using a Citrus Berry, my 6 rare candies to bring my level up to 73, and I replace Minimize with Silverwind. Houndoom is out and we bring it to about half as it lands a Dark Pulse for major damage. This was actually a pretty low damage roll for him, normally he brings me down to yellow. We fire back another Thunderbolt for the knockout. Weavile is out next, and this is why we used Silverwind, as we fire one off to bring it to below half as it heals with a berry and hits a major Ice Punch which triggers our berry to bring our health back to 60. Another Silverwind finishes it though. Next up are Honchkrow and Gyarados, but they both go down to a single Thunderbolt. Last out is Crobat, and we're really not in a good position HP wise. It's fast as hell and can hit pretty hard. I actually haven't gotten to it with this much health before, but I'm not confident. Fortunately, by the grace of Algoris, we outspeed it and land a Thunderbolt for the knockout. Finally, our ability kicked in and boosted our speed past the Crobat after we ate our berries so we could finally move first. Any attempt where I was actually able to get to the Crobat before ended because he would knock out Giggles before I could get off an attack. This is an instance where our ability actually made the difference. After we beat Cyrus, we defeat Giratina and head back to reality. We return to Professor Rowan, who's relieved we survived the deadly mission he sent us on before he rates our Pokedex. We coincidentally have seen 151 Pokemon. I'm not making that up, nor did I do it intentionally. We just honest to God got the most famous number in Pokemon. At least if you're a Gen 1 whore like me, that is. Now it's time for Volkner in the Electric Gym. That is, if we could get to him. I keep getting hung up on this final trainer in his gym who we have to face to progress, and he has an Electabuzz and a Magneton. They both have Thunderbolt, and it hits us like a freight train. We're nearly 30 levels higher, and we still can't get past them. Never mind getting to Volkner. This is terrible. At this point, I'm already legitimately 18 hours into this game. This is why I hated Emerald. All the extra shit just drags this game out even further. I guess we're gonna rethink our strategy here. So I grind a bit on the trainers I skipped, and I also take care of some housekeeping. As part of that housekeeping, I decided to go around the region gathering as many rare candies as I could to this point in the game. I already used 6 in the Distortion world, but I was able to find another 8. There's even more you can get later, but this should be good for now. I have a strategy I want to try first, but we'll probably need these later anyway, so I might as well grab them now while I'm leveling up. I also go to the Move Tutor on Route 212 and exchange a bunch of the shards I've been picking up all game and have him teach Air Cutter to Giggles. It's a wee bit of an accuracy reduction, down to 95 from 100, but it's a flying special move, so in addition to the stab I get, it has more power than Gust, and it also has an increased crit chance. So it seems like a good chance to upgrade and a good upgrade to get. I also go to the Move Reminder in Pastoria and spend a Heart Scale to remind Giggles how to use Minimize again. I feel like it's going to be necessary again moving forward, and Bugwind has honestly outlived its usefulness. I know we just used it for Cyrus just a little while ago, but just like Take On Me was a one-hit wonder for the band Aha, Silverwind was a one-hit wonder for Giggles. Bug is really only effective against Dark and Psychic, and while there is a Psychic Elite 4 member coming, we already have Shadow Ball to blow through him. And as for Dark, there are actually only 4 more Dark Pokemon left to face, assuming I don't backtrack. There's 1 in Victory Road, 2 in the Elite 4, and 1 with the Champion. And the last 3 of those are all dual-typed, with a type that resists Bug, making it a neutral wash, so Minimize I feel is going to be more valuable. Back at Volkner's gym, and as is the case with this run apparently, I plan for a strategy and then we just luck our way through it. We've been leaving Electabuzz with a sliver, so using 1 rare candy to bring our stats up just a smidge, we were able to one-shot the Electabuzz now. Next out is his Magneton, and it should be a 2-shot, but I don't know how much damage it's doing with Thunderbolt. It's doing at least 130. Fortunately though, we land a crit Shadow Ball for the 1-shot to end it. Well, once again, I spent a bunch of time coming up with a strategy that just goes out the window thanks to a lucky run. Whatever, this game's annoying me. I'll take it. Let's try Volkner. This takes a few attempts at some scouting runs with some different held item combos, but we finally get this run thanks again to some good fortune. Jolteon is first, and we land a Shadow Ball as it goes for Thunder Wave. We cure our paralysis with our held berry and take it out with a Shadow Ball. Raichu is next, and it survives Shadow Ball to land Charge Beam. Next turn he heals with a full restore as we land a couple more Shadow Balls and eventually end it. Next up is Luxray, and it survives Shadow Ball to land a huge Thunder Fang. Volkner goes for full restore and 2 more Shadow Balls take it out. Last out is his Electivire, and we know from previous attempts that 2 Shadow Balls should be enough, but we just don't have the HP for it. Fortunately, we land a crit Shadow Ball to end the fight, and finally, after legitimately 20 plus hours in this game, we have finally gotten the 8th badge. Now we can settle in and go through Victory Road. And yeah, so I'm tired of this game at this point, so I go ahead and use my 9 rare candies and get us to level 88. I decided to use some time on Staraptor, and I set up 2 minimizes. His Aerial Ace is going to bypass them and always hit us, but it only hits for about 40 damage, so I let him get 2 and then use Thunderbolt for an easy one-shot. Empoleon is next and also goes down to 1 Thunderbolt. Roserade goes down to an Air Cutter and also does Heracross. Snorlax is a bitch though, but it misses his second crunch thanks to our minimizes, and we take him down in 3 Thunderbolts. Last out is Rapidash, which survives Thunderbolt with a sliver, but goes down to Shadow Ball. Now we go on to the Elite Four. Bug Trainer Aaron is first. His Yanmega goes down to 1 Air Cutter, Drapion is next and goes down in 2 Thunderbolts and lands a refreshingly weak Ice Fang. Scizor is next and it survives a Thunderbolt to land a Night Slash. Aaron's got a full restore though as we land a Shadow Ball and Thunderbolt to end it. Vespiquen is next and goes down to a Thunderbolt. Last out is Heracross and goes down to a quad effective Air Cutter. Up next is Bird, the Ground Trainer. We change our held item from the Zap Plate to the Wise Glasses, since we won't be able to use Thunderbolt at all here. Wishcash is up first, and we set up Minimize as it goes for Aqua Tail. We go for another Minimize, and it sets up a Sandstorm. At this point, we go for Shadow Ball and bring it low, as Bertha uses a full restore. 2 more Shadow Balls end it. Golem is next, and we bring it low with a Shadow Ball as it misses Thunder Punch. Another Shadow Ball ends it. Rhyperior is next, and we land a Shadow Ball to bring it low as it goes for a Mega Horn instead of Avalanche. We knock it out with another Shadow Ball. Herglisor is next, and it survives with low health from a Shadow Ball, and we get the special drop as Bertha heals it only for us to take it down on the next move. Last out is Hippowdon, which winds up a Sandstorm with its ability. It goes low from a Shadow Ball as it lands a big Stone Edge. Combined with the Sandstorm damage we're taking, we're in danger, but despite her gloating, she actually doesn't heal it, and we're victorious with another Shadow Ball. On to the fire guy, whose name I legitimately don't remember right now. We get into the room and find out it's Flint. His Houndoom is first, and we start using the chance to set up our minimizes. By good luck, both with his move choice and our evasion, we get all 6 minimizes in place as he never lands a Dark Pulse and uses Sunny Day for some reason a second time. We take it out with a crit Thunderbolt. Magmortar is next, and a Shadow Ball brings it low as it heals with a berry. Thunderbolt brings it to a sliver as it heals with a full restore. We get a few licks in, but of course it knows Thunderbolt for some reason, and it hits us hard. We do finally take it down and it's on to Flareon. It hits a big overheat, but we survive and finish it in 2 hits. Infernape comes out next and it goes down to an Air Cutter. Rapidash comes out and tanks a Thunderbolt but misses Flare Blitz. He heals it with a full restore, but we crit one-shot it with another Thunderbolt. We didn't need the crit as we had 2 attacks coming, but I'll take it. Anything to speed this trash heap of a game along. It's time for the Psychic Battler, and hopefully this will be a quick one. And yeah, it is. We one-shot 4 of his 5 Pokemon with Shadow Ball. Only his Bronzong hangs on, but it wastes his turn with a Calm Mind. Now it's on to the champion Cynthia. And yeah, we need to talk about Cynthia. We try, and try, and try, and try, and try, at our current level of 89, and it's just not happening. So, I decided to spend a bit of time grinding in the Elite Four over and over to raise our level, and we're finally at level 97. Cynthia puts previous champions like Lance and even Steven to shame. The biggest wall out front is her Spiritomb. It's a dual ghost dark type, which actually makes the most sense conceptually typing-wise for ghosts, but as much as I love the typing on paper, it makes it ridiculous to face because it actually has no type weaknesses. I believe this has eventually been changed with the introduction of the Fairy type in Gen 6, but for Gen 4, there are no types that are super effective against hitting a Dark Ghost type. The other problem with it in our specific case is that it knows Shadow Ball and Dark Pulse, both of which are absolutely devastating to us. This is difficult. Even at level 97, you're watching failed attempt after failed attempt against her. And it took me over 2 hours to get back to her after losing my first attempt at her. Yes, even in the high 90s, we still have trouble getting through the Elite Four. This is mostly due to the inaccuracy of Thunder, but also some really BS typing that some of her Pokemon have moves for. Finally, after what feels like forever, we get this winning run. I guess spoiler alert, but honestly I'm so done with this game at this point, so it's whatever. We open the battle with her Spiritomb with an air cutter, which hits for about half damage as it responds with a dark pulse for major damage to us. We finish it with another air cutter. Next up is her Milotic. We miraculously land our first Thunder and get a high damage roll to one-shot it. There were previous attempts here where we wouldn't one-shot it. And out come Togekiss. By all grace of Algoris, we land another Thunder and bring it down in one hit. Lucario is next, and we land an air cutter as it lands Stone Edge. It honestly never seems to miss with this in all our attempts, despite its accuracy issues. It's a regular hit though, which we can actually survive, not a crit, and another air cutter to Lucario ends it. Her Garchomp is next, and we land a Shadow Ball to get the special defense drop, and it eats a berry and finally misses Dragon Rush. Another Shadow Ball ends it though, thanks to that special drop. Last out is Roserade, and we get a hit with Air Cutter, and it's enough to finally, miraculously, and mercifully end this garbage dung heap of a run. We get Drifloon into the Hall of Fame, and the credits roll. And there you have it, folks. We've finally beaten Pokemon Platinum with just a Drifloon. And honestly, in my opinion, that was absolutely god-awful. And if you'll permit me a brief rant for a minute or two, I promise some interesting stats in here, so bear with me. Bottom line, it really felt like virtually every Pokemon of any significance in this game that we had to fight had a move that we were weak to. If it didn't know a rock move, it knew ice, and if it didn't know ice, it knew electric, and if it didn't know electric, it knew ghost, and if it didn't know ghost, it knew dark. And honestly, dark type was the biggest problem with this run, but not like you might have thought. Yeah, Team Galactic had a lot of dark Pokemon, but for the most part, they actually weren't a problem for about 95% of the encounters with them. The problem with dark type was that loads and loads of random Pokemon in this game had dark moves. Whether it was Bite, Crunch, Night Slash, Pursuit, or whatever. Even Pokemon that you felt would probably be reasonable enough to try and set some minimizes up on, nope. Random dark type attack to do you dirty. Why does Tim's Snorlax know Crunch? Why does Heracross know Night Slash? Why? Just why? And on the rare case when it wasn't a dark attack kicking our ass, it was still BS like Steelix knowing Ice Fang, or Golem knowing Thunder Punch, or fucking Magmortar knowing goddamn Thunderbolt. Why? It's like Game Freak purposely designed this game to make it nearly impossible to beat with a ghost flying type. This was absolutely brutal. Interesting stat time to prove my point. I promised you they'd be here. Did you know that only 4 of the total 26 Gym Leader Pokemon we've had to fight all run had moves that did not include one we were weak to? And that none of those Pokemon were after the 3rd gym? That means 85% of the Pokemon that we had to face through our gym battles had at least one super effective move on us, if not more. And that doesn't even include the trainers in the gyms. We're talking just the gym leaders. Additionally, when we get to the Elite Four, only 8 of the 26 Pokemon that you fight, including the champions, fit that bill. So while that's twice as good for us on paper, the Pokemon here are essentially twice as tough, if not more, so it's really not any better, and you generally are facing more in each battle than the gyms. And I'm sorry, but when you're weak to over 70% or 85% of your opposition in the game, that's beyond rough. Team Galactic wasn't even the problem, it was the damn gyms in Elite Four. Also, by the way, Thunder is terrible. It's supposed to have an accuracy of 70%, but feels like it has an accuracy of 10. Air Cutter was aggravating me too. It's only supposed to miss 5% of the time, about 1 in 20 or so, but my god, when it misses, it seems to know the absolute worst possible time to miss, and it ruins runs. So yeah, rant over guys, I'm sorry, I just had to vent. I'm honestly not sure what we're doing next. How do you guys like this Gen 4 layout on the screen? Anything you'd like to be changed? I almost don't want to do another run after this, that was god-awful, but we will. I don't know, I'll probably do an easier one in Fire Red or Leaf Green since I need some comfort Kanto. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, catch 'em all.